Hello, it's Queen Shae.
Hello, it's Mama Fifi.
Today we are bringing you our first episode of the Unpacking My Past talk show. And we will be talking about how I lost trust in men.
Yay.
And also, our subtopic for today is checking my anger issues and how I did that. So, we're going to dive a little deep into that. But before we get started, let's introduce ourselves.
Great.
Okay, so as I said before, I'm Queen Shae, and I am a filmmaker, photographer. I am the co-producer of this show. I'm also a sickle cell advocate who happens to have sickle cell as well. Also, the reason why I chose to do this is so that I can encourage and uplift others to make sure they get it. You know what I mean? To understand that you can let go of the things that no longer suit you. Sometimes, you go and you bury things deep because you don't want to deal with them, especially if you have children. You don't want to bring up the things that hurt you so that it'll affect your child in that way, because they definitely feel everything that we go through.
That's true. That's great.
Yeah, so, this is me telling my truth, and hopefully I can encourage others to tell their truths as well, and they are able to speak on this show if they want to. If they want to actually ask questions, we're here to answer it. Also, I'm not doing this to hurt anybody. I'm not doing this to assassinate anyone's character. I'm only telling my truth in the best way that I know how. And I have no ill intentions at all. So
When you
why are you here, Mama Fifi?
Yeah, thank you, Sabriana. That was beautiful what you just said. So I'm here because I'm here to support you and your transparency and hopefully to be an example with this dialogue today for others to learn and grow as well along with us during this process.
Okay, great. All right, so let's just All right, so first question. Let us know who you are. What is it that you do? And why is this show important to you?
Okay, wonderful. So, all right, who am I? So, I'm Mama Fifi. I consider myself a servant and a healer to my community. I am a person who have, studied cultural competence, and I'm here especially to break the stigmas about African American people, Black people not seeking help. So, through this, I hope that people could feel more comfortable with seeking out persons like me. I am a certified sex coach and currently working on my dissertation to become a doctor in marriage and family therapy. So I am really honing in on my calling and walking in my calling to serve and help other people. Why I do this? I love it. I love seeing when people decide to flip the other side of the coin and realize who they are and how they actually exist. So that's very rewarding to me. Also, to answer your third question, this show, you know, unpacking, my life, right? I don't want to get it wrong. The title.
Unpacking my past.
Yes, unpacking my past. That is more than a notion, right? So I hope to um, help people unpack their suitcases and remove any of the past traumas and hurt. And sometimes we call it generational trauma or generational curses. I want them to be able to unpack those things out of their suitcase and put in positive, beneficial things that they can carry moving forward. So that's very important to me. So that's why I'm here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this. I look forward to working with you in the future and just really unpacking things. This
Yeah,
is
I'm
something
loving this
important.
collaboration. I'm so glad we decided to do this.
Okay, great. So let's just dive in. Let's just go for it.
All right.
Okay, so um, how I lost trust in men. I think is a very strong topic for this week. And a lot of people, may jump to one conclusion or the other, but it definitely had nothing to do with any past relationship, although it didn't help sometimes. But it really, you know, it started from what I watched my mother go through when I was a child.
Yeah.
So that losing that trust in, having her go through so much and having a man to go from, this great Prince Charming to this complete monster was definitely not, at the age I was, 5 or 6 years old, like, it was not a great experience for me.
I know. I mean, using from prince to monster, that's such a dramatic change.
Yeah,
And 5 or 6 year old, that's very traumatic, seeing them as a prince and then he turns to a monster.
yeah, definitely. And
Mm-hmm.
now it makes me question, like, every time a guy is, like, super nice,
Mm-hmm.
and that can just be who he is as a person, a super nice guy. But in my head, I'm like, what is your angle? Like, what do you have planned? Like, it's the ones that are super nice at the beginning that I don't trust. And
Right.
and that's
So,
unfortunate.
wow. So actually, what I'm hearing you say is that this childhood traumatic experience caused you to look at gentlemen or men who are very kind in a non-trusting way, right?
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like to me that it's not that the men are not trustworthy. It's just that in you have the trust issue.
Right. It's a trigger.
It,
It
it's
is.
a trigger. It's a trigger for you. So therefore, it's like you have to question yourself as to how can I look at this incident and say, okay, that was something that my mother experienced, and I'm not going to let it dictate how I choose to be in a relationship with someone else. Right. And
Absolutely.
so it's good that you recognize that it's not the person, even though the trauma has caused you to have tunnel vision, it caused you to just think that any man who starts off with you in a relationship that appears to be nice, it makes you feel like, oh my goodness, when is the shoe gonna drop? Like, when is that monster gonna appear? So I'm not even gonna focus on the goodness and the kindness and all the positive things that this man could be bringing to my life. I'm gonna just constantly wait for the shoe to drop. So that means that you're not living in the present,
Right. I'm not
right?
enjoying the memory that we're creating in that
Right.
moment.
Or you're not even being a partner. You're not even being a factor. You're not even allowing yourself to permission to participate.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you're not giving yourself permission to even enjoy getting to know somebody.
Absolutely. I definitely feel that way in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like, I literally, and okay. I think every girl goes, well, not every girl, but a lot of women go through the whole bad boy phase. So they feel like, oh, I like a bad boy. And, a lot of good men, they say, oh, you don't want the good guy, you want the bad boy. And for a long time, yeah, that was me. It was me. But honestly, like, I never, even though I chose the bad boy, he wasn't, like, whoever I was with was not a bad person to me. So I can say.
And so why do you think you chose the bad boy? What did that mean? What did that mean to you to choose a bad boy?
Well, honestly, it kind of is like they showed you who they were up front.
And so then by them doing that, you felt like you can, excuse me, you can choose to deal with them or not.
Right,
or
exactly.
That was better to know, because at least I know up front he's this bad boy, so I don't have to expect anything different or better later.
Exactly. Wow. That was definitely, and it took me a long time for me to realize what I was doing. But the good thing is that I realized it, and
what made you realize it? That's the key right there. What made you realize that you didn't have to settle for that?
For a long time, I always talked about, like, I've always loved myself. That was never the problem. But I never fully walked in my own self-worth the way that I have in the past, like, 4 or 5 years.
Well, see, that's kind of a conflict, right? Because in loving yourself, then it's an impossibility to have this conflict of not knowing your self-worth. Right. See, and you see what I'm saying? So in loving yourself, you know these things. You know your self-worth, you know your value, you know what you can have, you know who you are, you know what you like, you know what you don't like, and guess what goes along with that? You even have a voice to express it, right? See, with trauma takes away our voice.
Right.
Trauma makes us second guess ourselves, doubt ourselves, right? And so even though you felt like you loved yourself, you was not at the fullest potential that you could be in loving yourself. So this is why you recognize, because of the behavior, you wasn't receiving the type of love that you wanted. So I believe that that's what woke you up to say, wait a minute.
That could be it. And honestly,
okay, you tell me.
You know what? I think it really hit me when I had my daughter, because I felt like I wanted her to see a man loving me to the deepest potential of what I knew I deserved and what I wanted her to know she deserved when she grows up. So, I didn't want to be the person that's like, oh, don't do as I do as I tell you. Like, no, I want to always lead by example in everything that I do, especially with my child. So I want her to see that behavior just as I did. I may have had, crazy past when it comes to viewing, what my mom went through in her past relationship. But I can't lie and say I didn't see examples of how a man was supposed to treat a woman.
Wow.
You know? So I think that's what really, like, woke me up, too, because I knew what it looked like. And like just knowing what it is and what it truly looks like to
And how did
truly.
you know what it looked like? Who was that person?
My grandparents was the first example that I really truly had of, love and sacrifice and how a man is supposed to step up and treat a woman. The fact that my grandfather was not my biological grandfather, meaning he was not my blood, but honestly, he came and he took the responsibility for a sick child when he got with my grandmother. And then when my mom had me, who also had sickle cell, he still, he made sure he took care of all of us in a way that we didn't want our need for anything. He knew how to treat us, how to take care of us, how to make sure we knew we were loved.
Wow.
And he got up and went to work every morning, bright and early. When the sun was coming up, he was waking up faithfully every morning. And when he got his paycheck, it wasn't like, oh, this is mine. He brought it to my grandmother, and just the way they treated each other, even when they would get mad at each other, like, it was only a handful of times I used to be like, nah, I don't like the way your guys are handling each other, but other than that, the way they even used to argue used to be so funny to me. Like, you guys stop it. Like, you guys can't even argue. Like, stop. So it's just, the
Oh, I
way.
mean, that's not what you're saying is not to be taken lightly, because it's like you had an example
Right.
what love was, like a man to a woman and to his family.
Right.
Now, we cannot overlook that. That's very important because men do care. Men do love. Men, have feelings, And so he had a sickly child. That sickly child then had, I'm sorry to say sickly, but that father took care of a child who had a disease, which is sickle cell. Then that child adult child, then had a child who had gotten the same disease, which is you, sickle cell. And that didn't run that man away. He stayed around and he did what he needed to do. Yes. And that says a lot because, see, that's what we have to understand, that we are able to treat others the way we want to be treated because we understand who we are. Now, he did that on his own conviction because he made sure that he wanted to be responsible for his choice. And his choice was to be with your grandmother and to support his family the best way he knew how. And you saw that.
Absolutely.
And then what happened later, as you told the story earlier, that you watched your mom relationship, which was totally different, a man appearing as though he has taken responsibility for his choice, then wound up being a monster. And those are your words. You said a monster.
Yes.
And so that really affected you, you know. So you had a taste of it, but it sounds like as you move forward into your life, like you said, I had some information and I know I didn't want my daughter, because now I have a daughter, right? Thank goodness she does not have the disease, right?
Right. She only has the trait.
She's a carrier, right? So you want somebody to understand her in a way that accept her with having the trait, right? Accept her mother with having a disease, love her family, love her, and support her in a way that she can be herself and grow. Because those are your desires. That's all you ever wanted. But it sounds like you didn't have the tools to execute that.
Right.
Right? And so therefore, what is your love life now? What does that look like for you now? What did you decide to do as a result of that?
Well, I decided to get out of a very toxic relationship. And And I definitely, instead of jumping into another relationship, I honestly have taken the time 4 years to know myself, to get to know myself, what I like, what I dislike, get to a point in my life, in my career, spend more time with my daughter, do the things that are important to me in this time, to actually prepare myself and give myself the best possible chance to have the type of love that I feel I deserve.
Awesome. So, what is it that you think is blocking you from having that?
Okay, so one thing in particular would probably be my anger issues. And I have worked tremendously on them. They're not as bad as they once were. I am not as bad as I used to be. Trust me, I am definitely not. But I will say this. Um, I really, I have really like Hulk-like anger issues sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in order to maintain a very functional relationship, I can't automatically resort to the traits and triggers and anger that I have been used to doing for the past, over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I definitely.
So, why don't you tell me and the audience what specifically you think your anger derives from?
Well, of course, it definitely comes from, watching my mom go through, her abusive relationship. Hold on. Honestly, my anger definitely comes from the fact that I felt helpless, that I couldn't protect her when she was in her abusive relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and also her death. Actually, that really is what my anger comes from, to a
Mm-hmm.
point, where I didn't properly mourn her death,
Well,
as
sorry
a
to hear
as a
that. Mm-hmm.
child. So I had a lot of misplaced anger, and
And that misplaced anger made you act in ways like how?
I would fight a lot, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like I was picking fights,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't take much to
Mm-hmm.
get me to go there. And
Mm-hmm.
when I went there, I wasn't like, oh, we're going to fight. Like, it's like I'm seriously hurting you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I black out. I
Mm-hmm.
don't realize what I've done until I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that part of me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
especially as an adult, because I have a lot more consequences than I did as a child if I
Right.
black out. So
Mm-hmm.
it was really important for me to work that anger out to this point, and I know I still have a lot of work to do,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I just really thought that, you know, the way that I wasn't going to lead me anywhere good. So I had to work on my anger, and the fact that, losing my mom, I felt like we were cut off. Like, after all that we've been through at that point in her life and in mine, we were
Mm-hmm.
just at a point where we were going to have a fresh start. Like
Right.
we were going to, we never got to fulfill the things and live the life that we we needed to together,
Right.
you know,
Right.
after experiencing what we both went through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that was something that was important, because for a long time I did resent her. And a part of
Right.
me was angry with her for even letting anybody mistreat her, because she's always, made a point to me to never let anyone mistreat me. So, again, that's why leading by example is so important to me,
Right. So
because
you just felt like you didn't have your chance with your mom to really, really um, get to experience with your mom what love is and how it looks in a relationship. And you just thought you guys was going to have a whole brand new start just together in terms of mother and daughter. And then her life was cut short. Right.
yes.
So now, being an adult, I want to ask you, is like that leaves you, you know, feeling like you missed out on something, right?
Yeah.
And so then when you think in terms of having a relationship, that creates a lot of doubt for you, huh?
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. And also, like, I have like the whole um dealing with abandonment because of it. So it
Mhm.
definitely affects me in a lot of different ways. And I didn't realize how deep it was for a long time. And I think that is why I chose to just be angry, because it was so many different emotions and I was so young that I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want to be confused. I didn't want to be hurt. I didn't want to be abandoned. So I just decided to turn it all into anger. It was easier to be angry.
Right. It was easy to react and push people away and isolate, and I'd rather do it myself than be in connection with somebody else.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. And have a meaningful relationship. So it sounds like, if I would ask you, what kind of belief system then about yourself did you pick up? Like, if you had some sort of belief that you about yourself that you never told anybody, but that that's the way you feel about yourself or believe about yourself, what would that be as a result of your experience? What kind of script or something you're telling yourself about yourself?
Everyone who truly ever loved me has left me. So,
Okay, so then if they truly love you, it's like they left you, why would they leave you? So what do that mean to you? What do that mean about yourself?
um, that honestly, I'm difficult to
Yes,
love.
you could develop a script that I must be difficult.
Yeah.
And what else? And what else? What other kinds of things you tell yourself as a result of that?
Um, I I tell myself that I'm meant to be alone.
See, wow,
I must
I'm
be meant to be
difficult,
alone.
and I must be meant to be alone. Wow. So being on that kind of frequency, that low level frequency of energy, how can you give yourself permission to truly have love in your life when that is your covert belief? You believe that you're difficult and that you're meant to be alone.
Ooh.
Right? Right. And so this is how we heal. See the journey we just went on? This is how each and every one of us have to approach ourselves. We have to look at the things that we've been through, like you say, unpack our
Mhm.
past.
Mhm.
We have to unpack it and we have to look at the painful things, stare it straight in the eye, and look at it and be honest with it and be vulnerable to it, and to be able to admit that as a result of this, this is who I became. You can't blame, like we started out, like these gentlemen who were nice and kind to you. You can't blame them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what the tunnel vision do to us. It makes us feel like it's someone else. It's them. It's them. It's them. It's them. No, it's us. Mm-hmm. We have to look inside ourselves and be honest, and then move towards saying, being honest to ourselves to say, I don't know how to do this. And if I don't know how to do this, let me seek help. Let me gather a support system. Let me get some people that I can trust that's on a little bit more higher frequency than I am, that can tell me a little bit about me so that I can begin to get some tools that are useful that I can use. Now, here's the kicker. Because most people who come to see me in my profession, it's like we can do what we just did and unpack it and get to this point. Mm-hmm. But you know what the most hardest thing to do is to put it into action, is to actually do the things you need to do to become the person that actually you was created to be. See, no amount of trauma that any of us has went through has taken away or take precedent over who we were created to be.
Absolutely.
We are all on our journeys, and we were given a choice and a free will. And the free will gives us the choice at every given avenue to choose what is best. But sometimes when you don't have the right tools and the know-how to choose what's best, then you choose the thing that's not best, and you begin to be on this vicious cycle. And then we want to label it as, oh, this is who I am. You're just going to have to accept me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what it is really a scared little girl and boy inside who have put up roadblocks and walls and everything of that nature and classified it as, now I'm safe. This is who I am. Letting that little child inside of us, now that we are an adult, rule our world. And we're living in fear. And we're not supposed to live in fear.
Not at all.
Right. God has not given us the spirit of fear. Right. And
walk by faith and not by sight.
Right. And so, therefore, this is the work you have to do. You have to face the fears, which is false evidence appearing real. If there's no real evidence for this fear, then you don't hold on to it. You have to let it go. And you have to replace it with knowingness. And you have to be able to gather that data, that information through connection, through being a part of life, through saying, I am here, I got my feet planted, I want to be here, I want to live, and I want to walk in the calling that was created for me from the beginning of time. That's what I want.
Yes.
And recognize the work that you have to do. So, in recognizing your trigger, which is this anger, then that means that you're going to have to pick up some other tools, like maybe some patience. Maybe picking up the tool of learning how to trust, earn trust, not only from others, but trusting yourself, trusting your own intuition, trusting that thing that God has given us from the beginning as woman, because you're a woman, and trusting that, trusting you. Nobody knows more than you. And you got to learn how to listen to that voice and get rid of what I call the noise. All that other junk that comes through our heads that is not beneficial. It's just wasted energy. Negativity or negative energy, that's all it is. It's just a weight. And it doesn't care who or what it lands on. It'll stay there forever if you don't do anything to combat it, to say, no, there's a balance. I can't be all negative. I have to be a balance. I have to be centered. Right? And so that's why you're here today. I'm glad that's why I'm here today. And I appreciate your story because you want to be centered.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be this angry, reactionary person anymore.
Yeah. So I had a question.
Yeah.
For a long time, dealing with my anger, a lot of people have, said, "Oh, count to 10." In your opinion, do you think that actually works, or is that something that's like not?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, all these little techniques are things that could begin. It's like mindful exercises, and that's all it is. It's just something to get you in the state of mind of being present, because you probably have just been triggered, and so you're not present. You're living in the present as if the past is happening to you. You're not really seeing the reality or hearing or feeling the reality of what has just transpired as it is in reality. Because you have this tunnel vision and you constantly live in the past, when you trigger, it triggers the past. So you're in the present living in the past. And so using the counting to 10 gives you a chance to become present.
Okay.
And along with past, then look around the room and name stuff, colors, everything, like, I'm here, I'm present. Okay, now you could begin to have a clear mind to say, okay, what just happened? Right? And then you can process it, and then you can ask that person, you know what? I just been triggered. I need a moment before I answer you, because I'm really concentrating on not going to my default, which is disconnection and anger. I really want to stay connected to you and give you the best response that I can at this time. And so if we can just table this for a minute and let me compose myself, then we can talk about it again. Right? And then that way, if that person, they have to have on their adult hats. They can't be a child or authoritative figure, like, no, I want to talk about that. See, now they trick. And they don't know it. Right? No, if they're an adult, they're present, they should be able to say, I understand. Okay. And give you that space.
That makes
right? Because
all the
that's
sense.
how two adults interact with each other.
Absolutely.
So to answer your question in short, yes, it works to bring you present.
Okay, great. Well, that's good to know. Because, I've been working on this temper of mine, but no. And you know what else though? Because I found, and this just might be me, but honestly, I found that because when I'm not angry, I can be really calm and collected and a really fun-loving person. And a lot of times, people take my kindness for weakness, right? So,
well, see, I would have to beg to differ. I think that is one of your thoughts as a result of your covert belief about yourself. Because of your trauma, it makes you think that people take your kindness for weakness.
Okay.
I'm going to just challenge you on that, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So, Okay, so what I'm saying is, I've found that I sometimes get my desired results when I actually get angry. Like
So you think.
no, because they say you could catch more flies with honey than vinegar,
Honey.
and I get that. And sometimes, and a lot of times, I do. I try the honey first, but then it's like that's not working. So then I go to vinegar, and then it works. So
Well, I do. I understand the analogy because it seems like that person can't hear you unless you give them the vinegar. But see, that's not your work to do. And see, and this is what we do. We take on the work of others. See, if you have to go to give them vinegar, then you're doing the work the other person should be doing on themselves to know what to do in the situation.
right,
You understand what I'm saying?
absolutely.
So it's like once you gain your autonomy over you and center, it's going to bring about a peace. And I shared this with my sister about my revelation about the phrase peace be still. Now, usually when we use that or hear that peace be still, it's like we're saying peace be still, right? Telling somebody to be still. But the way it flew over my ears or went past my ears when we were having this discussion, my sister and I, it was like peace. And B was saying what peace is. Peace be still. When you are at peace, you will be still. So you don't have to reach for the vinegar, right?
Okay.
You don't have to reach for the bat to make somebody do something. Because when, you know what I mean?
Right,
because
right.
when you have peace within yourself, guess what you're going to be? Still.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Because that means that you're going to be responsible for self. And then all that other drama somebody else is bringing is going to reveal the work that they need to do for themselves.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And by you being in peace, you're going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You're going to still be able to speak what it is you want. And if they're not able to deliver it, then they're going to have to do the work to say, can you help me? Or can you explain a little bit more about what you need? But sometimes people are facing their own demons that don't allow them, because they have their own fears and insecurity, that does not allow them to ask such a question because of their trauma that gives them tunnel vision. And so they already talking in their head, listening to that noise. Oh, well, she ain't gonna believe me. Oh, well, she ain't gonna want to help me. So you're defeated before you even get started with that kind of thinking.
Absolutely.
So when you are at peace, you can see all of that unfolding before you, but you don't have to pick up the other person's mess and then try to feed it back to them what they're supposed to do with it.
Right. You're right. Yeah, that's the part I gotta work on the most.
Yeah, there you have it. Yes.
But
yes.
I honestly think that, pulling myself back into the present and trying to recognize, like you said, what's my surroundings and counting and saying, you know what, I can't deal with this right now. Because in some ways, and depending on the person, because I'm a very respectful person, especially if they're like older, I will automatically give them that respect, and I'll say, you know what, we can't have this conversation right now because it's not going to go at all the way that we want it to. So let's step away, and when I can talk and when you can talk properly, we will definitely revisit this conversation.
Right.
And it does. It helps, so I guess I should use that on everyone.
Well, you're good to ask a question. This is how you learn.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Because you have to remember that you treat yourself the way you feel about yourself.
Right.
If you're not feeling good about yourself, then as you're not gonna know the 10-second rule really helps.
It's like when people be like, when I'm in the moment, like, oh, count to 10. I ain't trying to hear that. Like,
Right.
I don't want to hear count to 10.
Exactly.
I count to 10, and in 10 seconds, I'm going to go off.
Right. Okay, I'll count to 10, but when I get through,
when I get to 10, it's still going to be on 10.
Right. And that's just our shadow self, as we call it, shadow self, or the dark self, that wounded person. You don't want to live in that woundedness all the time. No.
Right. Yeah. So, this is pretty much the end of this episode. We've coming to the end. And I just want to thank everybody for listening. I thank everyone who is supporting us. And know that you do not have to be what you've been through. You do not have to act out of anger or hurt or be triggered. You don't have to live in that. And for me to accept that and accept and acknowledge that I want to grow more than what I've been able to do for myself is a big step. And anybody can choose to make that step as well.
Yes.
So let's just end this with Mama Fifi's question for you all for this episode. And after that, we're going to play the song. And until next week, guys, thank you again for tuning in. And know that we will be here again on z100thebeat.com next week.
Shae, yes, thank you. So, the end questions of the day. So here we go. What memories or traits no longer benefit you? What would you take away or take out of your suitcases? And what are some takeaway tools you can use to replace the hurt, pain, and etc.? You can email us at unpackingmypast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you to answer these questions, okay? And that is, what memories or traits no longer benefit you? What would you take out of your suitcases? And what are some takeaway tools you can use to replace the hurt and pain, okay? We would love to hear from you at unpackingmypast@gmail.com.
Until next time, people, thank you for joining us on Unpacking My Past radio show on
At
Z100,
thebeat.com.
All right. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.